Hi, my name is Drew, and this is ReadyBudgetGo. If you haven't been here before, welcome. And if you've been here before, welcome back. I'm glad you're here either way. It's Friday, so it's time for the weekly reel. That is where I share my real budget numbers, my real income, my real expenses, my real triumphs, and my real mistakes. If you're ready, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's get started with the cash dump, which is what I always do first. And this is where I take out the weekly cash that I have left over from my allowance that I give myself. I give myself $50 each week in cash spending. Whatever I don't spend goes into savings challenges, typically the following month. So right now I am funding the Treasure Island Savings Collab and Happy Mail Jail, and those videos come out on Thursdays. So let's see what we've got here. This pouch holds all of my money for the week, and left over I have $25, $6, $7, $8, so I spent $22. This $28 is going to go into this pouch. Now, it's empty right now because I already emptied it out for February, and this is my first spending week of March. Even though the month is half over, basically, my weeks run from Friday through Thursday. So this was the first week of spending for March. And then I do have a couple of pennies to put into the change pouch. Now, this change pouch is not dedicated toward any specific purpose. It's just that whenever it fills up, I will cash it in for a gift card, but it is slow going. Most of what is in here is pennies. There are other denominations, but lots of pennies. So who knows? Those pennies, I may hang on to them so long that they'll actually be worth something again. Okay, so that is it for that. And now I need to take out $50 for this coming week. 20, 45, and 50. Let's put this back in here. This is for the rest of the weeks in the month. Just make sure it is indeed 50. And that will go in here for the week ahead. Now, my assumption is that I will keep most, if not all of this money, because I am going out of town this week. I have a work trip in California, so I will be spending the week in Los Angeles, and I don't anticipate that I will be spending much cash. Everything will be most likely on a credit card, but we'll see, because Friday's part of the week. I might go out to lunch today, and if I do, I will be spending some of that cash. Okay, so cash dump is done. Let's get into the rest of the budget here. Slide this over. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the big move. So this is a project that I'm working on where I am relocating to another state, and I'm keeping track of all the expenses related to that move here. I'm going to need another sheet, probably 2 sheets. So this week I had the application fee for the new apartment, $54.70. The application was approved. I just sent in the holding deposit today, and that was another $700. I will get that money back, but it'll take 60 days after my tenancy begins. So I won't see that money probably until July, maybe even August, depending on how things fall. So it's paid today, but it's on an ACH, meaning that it probably won't hit my account until at least, well, this evening or Monday or what have you, so it's not in here yet, but it will be next week. So just the $54 for this week. Now let's get into the March budget. So anything from green is from last week. Anything from blue is from this week. So no income yet for the month. That is pretty typical because I'm paid twice a month on the 15th and the last day of the month. My paycheck will hit today as you're watching this. It'll be on the 13th. But I'm recording this on the 12th, and because that money is not yet in my bank account, I didn't write it down here. In terms of bills, I had Quantum come out. That is my home fiber internet, $75. YouTube Premium came out. That was $16. And also this credit card annual fee of $95. It hadn't come out yet, and I thought it would come out on the 1st. So I called the credit card company today, and I said, hey, when are you going to bill me for this annual fee? They said not until May. So it's not in this budget. I will need to remember that it will be in my May budget to put it in on the May budget. So for now, I just zeroed that out. Weekly spending, $326.08. So I did go a little bit over. I will talk to you about how that shook out and why it's over here in a little bit. $100 went into my sinking funds, $650 went into savings. Now, this $650 is not yet out of my account. I set up the transfer for, no, it is out of my account. I did set up the transfer for it, but I did not put it into my savings account where I've been keeping all the other money for the big move, and I will talk more about that when we get to the savings section. Okay, so next up is the cash flow tracker. This is essentially a check register where I keep track of everything that goes into and out of my checking account all month long. This week, only 2 transactions. There was the Quantum Fiber Internet for $75, and then I sent $1,713 to Wealthfront, and that is where I keep most of my savings, but not all of it. And actually, not all of that made it into Wealthfront. And the reason is, when I put money into Wealthfront, I am putting it away for the long term, meaning that it's not money that I expect to pull out again in the next month or 2 months. So this is like for my emergency fund, for my long-term goals, for things like that. I'm to the point now where I'm going to need money for the big move in the short term. So putting it all the way into Wealthfront makes it too inaccessible for the purposes that I'm using it for now. When I move money into Wealthfront, it actually goes through an intermediate step. So I have a credit union where I have another checking and savings account, and from there it goes into Wealthfront. So this is actually a transfer to the credit union, and then from the credit union it goes into Wealthfront. Why do I do that? A couple reasons. First of all, if I were to link my regular checking account directly with Wealthfront, it gives them access to all kinds of information about my financial life and my banking and things like that that I don't want them to have access to. So for that purpose, I use an intermediary. Also, it makes the money deliberately more difficult to get at. In other words, it's not just, oh, I overspent, let me transfer money in from my emergency fund or from one of my other savings accounts to cover the overage, right? So I really have to think about it, and I have to wait for the money to work its way back through to my checking account. So for those reasons, I use this intermediary account, but all of the money that is in my vault, I call it, which is my Wealthfront accounts, is, I mean, that's supposed to stay there for a while. So I'll explain more about that when I get into the savings pages. But for now, let's take a look at weekly expenses. So this is everything that I spent this week. There was a lot of DoorDash and convenience food this week, and the reason is because I am busy, right? Busy. So last week I was traveling, and next week I'll be traveling. Last week I was in Ohio and Texas. Next week I will be in California. So I am flying all over creation for work and for the big move and things like that. I have another trip coming up in April in Oregon, and then the big move itself, which is going to be a cross-country drive at the end of April. So lots going on, not a lot of time to cook. I am also trying to draw down what I have in food storage here. So there's food that's been in my freezer for months now, and I'm trying to burn through that as I can, but there's a reason it's been in there for months. It's because it's food that I don't particularly like. Now, I'm not just going to throw it away unless I absolutely have to, but you know, I can only eat so many of those per week, so many of those meals per week. So anyway, so some DoorDash. I did do a Costco run, $158. McDonald's once, Amazon. This is kind of what put me over. I mean, I finished at 326 or something, and 24 of that was for supplements. Ordinarily, this is for potassium, and I typically get the time release, but those are prescription only. I don't have time to go to the doctor right now, and she will not write me another prescription without more blood work. So I'm taking the over-the-counter version, which is fine. It's not as effective, but it works. That is to control leg cramps. So $24 for that. You do what you have to do. DoorDash again tonight. I always get DoorDash on Thursdays, and then weekly cash, $50. If you are new, I always write down $50 regardless of how much money I actually spend, because once it's out of my checking account and I take that $50 a week out, as far as I'm concerned, it is a sunk cost. So whether I spend none of it or all of it, I always write down $50. And then that money, whatever is left over, essentially becomes like a slush fund, but I put it toward things that have specific targets. Now, right now, I don't have anything specific for Happy Mail Jail, which is a box challenge. It's one of mine. It's available on my Etsy shop. And again, you can see those videos on Thursdays. I don't really know what that is going toward, but that's a year-long challenge, so I have time to think about it. The other, or not Happy Mail Jail. Happy Mail Jail, well, it might take a year. It might take the rest of the year. I don't know. But the other part is for the Treasure Island Savings Collab. I can never remember the title of it. It's like I have to go through everything in my head and think about, okay, it's Andra and Lisa, and there's 20 of us, and it's the pirate theme, and finally I get to Treasure Island. But at any rate, I have an idea for what I want to use that money for, but it's going to take a while to accumulate enough, and that's going to run the rest of the year. That is a year-long collab, so... Anyway, all that to say, that is what is running for expenses this week. That's what added up to the $328 that I shared over here. And hopefully the rest of the month comes in on or under budget, which I think it will. Next week, like I said, I will be in California. My company will be covering my expenses for 3 of those days. I have 2 travel days, and then I have a day and a half at the conference. So all of my meals and transportation and everything like that will be covered by my company. All right. So that is it for this section. Now let's talk about savings, because the emergency fund is fully funded. I said I would, and I did. I will throw a picture of the Wealthfront account on my screen so that you can see that, yes, the emergency fund does have $15,000 in it. The last deposit was made this week for $1,012 to bring it up to $15,000. This was done from money that was a rollover from February. So I had a little bit extra, so that's what I decided to do. I just wanted to get that goal done, which means before I go any further, I can go back to the first page here, and I am going to write in the date that I completed this. Let me just get a board here. I'm so sorry for, oh goodness, I did it again. So sorry for knocking the camera. And I just need to write in, pardon my reach, that I completed this. So date completed, March 11th, 2026. So that is done. Sorry for my reach again. This one stays in the front of the book. So other goals, I don't know that I will hit this year. In other words, I don't know that I will have the big move fully funded at $15,000. I mean, I know that I won't because I'm already spending that money. But I'm leaving this open until the big move is done and paid for and everything is behind me, just because it feels, I don't know, kind of disingenuous to check it off when it hasn't even happened yet. And then contributing the full amount to my Roth IRA. I also need to make sure that ReadyBudgetGo is seated at $2,500. I had it seated, and then I spent money that put me in arrears. That, I mean, I've still got money in my business checking account, but it's not the $2,500. And I had planned on sharing all of my business life, my income and expenses with regard to that this year, but there just hasn't been time. So hopefully once the big move is over, I can start doing that. It's not a guarantee, but I am sure going to try because I would like to do that. And then the BLIP fund, fully funded at $2,000. That's another goal after the Roth IRA. BLIP is just for any unexpected expenses that come up in the course of a month where it's not necessarily an emergency. You just need a little extra in your budget. So that is what that is for. And then if I can do all of those, then I will work on putting money into my sinking funds and getting those fully funded by the end of the year. We'll see if I make it, because they're sinking funds, right? So money goes in, money comes out. Anyway, all right, back to savings. So this is fully funded, and I talked about all of the money that went in this week. Also, I now have 2 pages here for the savings tracker. So you can see, I'm going to put up that picture again of Wealthfront. This is the wrong one. That's the BLIP fund. Sorry. I will come back to this. You can see that the books, Big Move Books Fund has $36.93. It's been that way for a while. It will hold there until I need to start drawing that money out again. But realistically, I have also $650 in the the intermediary account at the credit union that I just put in there this week. That is from this week's savings on Tuesday, and Wednesday. So that is the Savings Challenge book, the Batman binder, and the My Money relaunch paint by sticker. So $650 exactly this week went in. That is going to stay in the intermediary account. I will pull from that first, then start to move money out of Wealthfront as needed for the big move for any expenses that come up. Okay, last page is the monetization tracker. Now, this is also money for the big move. I was hoping that I would be able to get this fully completed before the big move, but it looks like the big move is going to happen before I get to 1,000 subscribers, which is fine. I'm still going to track, and I am still going to save. Not sure how to do this. I mean, I'm going to complete the tracker no matter what, but I also want to do something for those subscribers who come along to be part of the community that gets me to 1,000. So I don't know. I need to think about that. But this week got to 920. That just happened the other day, so I haven't yet made the deposit, but it is on my to-do list. If you are looking at the Wealthfront, you will see that it still is at 4,500. Actually, it should be 4,550. It should have 4,550, which I didn't write down, and then I need to deposit another 50 to bring it to 4,600 for the 92. Like I say, it's been a lot of travel, and I'm all over the place. I think the account has 4,550 in it. Well, you know as much as I do because you're looking at it on the screen. And I will make sure that that is right by the end of the week. Of course, if subscriber count keeps growing, I may still be behind, but that's okay. I'm always happy to be behind and chasing that because it means a lot that all of you spend so much time here with me and that you check in each week. I love reading your comments and having conversations and just being part of this wonderful community. So if you haven't subscribed already, I would love it if you would. And think of it this way, you'll be helping me chase one of my big life dreams. So it costs you nothing, and I will save $5 if you subscribe. And that is it for this week for the weekly reel. So thank you so much, as always, for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a thumbs up, drop a comment down below. Again, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will save money. And until I see you in the next one, take care.